All right, what's up, everybody? It is Wednesday, October 14th. So today I want to talk about that stupid, ridiculous national debt. We always hear about the national debt, and you got that really idiotic debt clock. If you go to debtclock.org, you could see that thing real time ticking off. But you know, the narrative on that thing is always, oh my God, we got 27 trillion in debt, and that's gonna be passed along to our kids and our grandkids, and how are we gonna pay for that, and all this ridiculous nonsense. So the first question, before I even get into that, let me just mention that if you go to that site, the debtclock.org, all right, if you go all the way down to the bottom of that page, in a little window down there, you know, because the only thing we ever hear about is the 27 trillion, oh my God, 27 trillion in debt, and that comes out to $81,490 per person or something like that, you know, 82 grand per person. That's what we owe, right? If you go down to the bottom of that page, you see the asset clock, which is like 124 trillion, okay? So 27 trillion in debt, supposedly 124 trillion in assets. Assets per person is $327,202. So they never show you that part, okay? And again, it's not all distributed equally, but you know, if you're gonna take a true accounting of our financial balance, our wealth, our assets minus liabilities, you know, we are way, way positive on the wealth side. But they never show you that. That's all the way down at the bottom of the page, all right? And I mean, if you walked into any bank and if you asked for a loan and you said, hey, here are all my debts, here are all my liabilities, the banker would say, okay, that's great, but let me see your assets too. Let me see your income. You know, we are never given that side of the picture. It's totally misleading, all right, the 27 trillion, when you don't also show the assets and the assets per individual, how that breaks down. I mean, if you're going to say everybody owes 81,000, so let's talk about this now. Let's talk about the debt, all right? The first question, the principal question, the most basic question is, who owes what to whom? Like, who in this situation, in this supposed reality, is the debtor and who is the creditor? Because the way it's framed is like, we owe it. We meaning who? The government, us, the people, the non-government. Because right there on that page, and the way it is stated all the time in the media, is like our share. Every individual's person's share is 81,498, whatever that figure is, okay? So it's framed in a way as to say, we are the debtors, like the people, we owe that. But on the other hand, it's also sometimes framed as the government, the country, the U.S. is in debt. All right, so that's kind of very, you know, an undetermined way to phrase it. The U.S., is that us? Is that the government? The non-government, that's us. We are the ones who hold the treasuries. Supposedly, those treasuries are the IOUs on that debt. If we hold the IOUs, then we are the creditors, right? We are owed that money. So the 81,000 is not what we owe, it's what we own. So then the government owes it. The government owes $27 trillion, of which this particular government, the United States of America, the federal government, is the monopoly issuer of the US dollar. Satisfying the debt is as simple as taking back the treasuries and crediting with cash balances in bank accounts. And it's done all the time. It's done every day. It's done every month. It's done every fiscal year. to the tune of over 100 trillion. So the most fundamental question is never asked. Who owes what to whom? We are the creditors. It is not what we owe, it is what we own. All right? And the ability of the government to satisfy that liability in dollars is uncontested because it is the issuer of the dollar. There is no question about it whatsoever. The whole thing is a bunch of nonsense. The whole thing is completely ridiculous, and it is total, absolute garbage. And it is created in order to frighten people and in order to satisfy a certain agenda or to push forward with a certain agenda. Now, are there people who have an ulterior motive and really know the truth and want to use that to further an agenda? Of course. But in most cases, it's driven by sheer ignorance. I know, for example, in the media, it's 100% driven by ignorance. They really believe that there's a debt owed somewhere. They never define who is the creditor and who is the borrower. I mean, the only time you ever hear that is like China is our banker, which is ridiculous. They're in the same boat, all right? They own, yes, they own just like we own the treasuries, which makes us the creditor. The national debt does not exist. The 27 trillion of treasuries outstanding, which is what everybody is referring to when they talk about the debt. Those 27 trillion in treasuries are dollars that are held in the form of government securities that are interchangeable with greenbacks, with regular dollars. Those are dollars spent by the government that have never been collected back as taxes. So we own that wealth. All right, and again, go to debtclock.org, go down to the bottom of the page and look at national assets and assets per person and compare that to the scary numbers they put out there with respect to the debt. And we are way, way, way on the positive side of the balance sheet in terms of wealth. So there's nothing to worry about. That's why it has never amounted to anything other than a scare tactic and a story that the media and certain groups and ignorant people, continue to push out there. So that's it. That's the whole story on the debt. It's nonsense. It doesn't exist. Don't worry about it. Bye-bye.